So we're going to talk about channel partnerships right now. Can I just ask, and I'm going to roll through this, how many of you guys actually have channel partner programs right now? Okay, how many are looking to put them into place? Okay, cool. So we're going to talk about the role of partners in the subscription economy and how they're going to help you guys accelerate revenue, not just, one of the favorite things I heard earlier this morning was, it's about business, not bookings. So many people have thought about partners over the last 20, 30, 40 years as bookings, not business. And that whole flip is starting to script right now. That whole script is starting to flip right now. So real quick, Scott Salkin, CEO and founder of a company called Allbound. We do exactly what we're talking about right now. We have a SaaS platform that helps companies accelerate recurring revenue through channel partners. So starts with recruiting partners all the way through onboarding, engaging, helping them register, track pipeline, and moving them into customer success. So partnerships are kind of one of those interesting topics where companies have all kinds of partners if you really think about it. You've got technology partners, you've got resellers, there's referral partners, there are affiliate partners, and it's not just tech. If we think about kind of that economy that has, how we sell through resellers and how we sell through indirect sales channels, it's estimated by the World Trade Organization there's over 100 million companies within the world that sell through a reseller ecosystem to go to market. That's 75% of all B2B transactions worldwide. A lot of shit goes through the channel. So Benioff puts this quote out there that says, listen, if you want to go and grow in any industry, I'm butchering this, if business in any industry, any market can only grow so far with direct sales alone. And it really is true. They say a lot of times if you want to go far, or if you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you go with somebody else, you go with a partner. So I often like to tell people when they're in a room and talking about partnerships, and we have this talk, look around the room and try and find something that was bought through a direct, was bought direct. And oftentimes you look at the shirt on your back, you look at the carpet on the floor, the paint on the walls, the technology equipment in the room, pretty much everything in here was bought through a reseller. Someone's always going to pull up their Apple computer and say, well, I bought this through Apple. Yes, but if you take a look at what that Apple, that Macintosh, that MacBook Pro does, Mac is a reseller. And if you think about how, Mac inside has an Intel Core processor. They've got a Toshiba hard drive. They're often sold from a B2C perspective, not only at the Apple stores, but through Best Buy, who's a reseller, often through Insight if you're going through B2B, or CDW, or one of those companies where if you want to buy in bulk, if you want to have to buy 100 Macs, if you want to buy Macs and put them on a network, you're going to go through a company like Insight who's going to provide some services there also. And then you see Apple this year starting to partner with companies like Nike. So they're becoming a technology and a reseller and a distributor partner because they're actually putting out there things like the Apple Watch that actually has their Nike version right now. So these partnerships, they tend to go kind of across the chasm from resellers to how they distribute parts and so forth. So when we talk up the ladder, oftentimes, we always talk about these kind of three areas of what partnerships can do for your business. And I like to focus on these three because really, no matter what type of organization you're running, you're looking at these three things in terms of how your business is performing. And those are speed, efficiency, agility. And so when we talk about partnerships and you talk about what they impact, there's probably nothing that you can do for your business that can have as big of an impact across the board for these three areas than building some type of partner program. Because when you think about as you get to a certain size, you need to accelerate sales cycles, so speed up how you sell, but at the same time, you need to lower customer acquisition costs, and you need to be a more agile company to get into new markets, to go vertical, to go horizontal, to get into new geographies. The most efficient way to do that is through partner programs, and that's been proven for a long time. It's just that we're moving from now, like I said before, kind of that booking mentality over to more of a business mentality. How do partners help with customer success? So that is the point that we're trying to make now. I mean, you look at what companies with some of the most successful partner programs out there today are doing. You look at companies like HubSpot, you look at companies like Xero, you look at companies like Intact, and some of these ones that have built these big partner programs that are generating 40, 50, 60, sometimes 70% of their revenue. And the partners aren't necessarily there just to make the product sell. They're not there for the booking. They're there for customer success. So they're there to make sure that adoption is great. They're there to make sure that customers are getting the most value and the best possible outcomes out of that software, and they're there to make sure that the renewal actually happens. So even when you look back at Apple, especially from a B2B perspective, when Apple says, hey, listen, we want to help you get the best possible outcomes from our product, what they say is put your product in the very best hands, which is our resellers, which is the folks that are out there servicing our product, an Apple Consultants Network. And so Apple themselves, who very few people think about their channel, is actually going through this consultants network to actually say, if you want the best possible outcomes, the most value, the best results from our product, go work with our partners. And so it's fascinating to see how they do that. And really, when you look at this, we often say now, there was an argument for a long time that says, oh, well, the channel's not going to work. These partner ecosystems aren't going to work when you get into the SaaS and the subscription economy. The margins aren't there. The inventory, well, there is none. So how is a channel partner and how is a channel going to work if you're SaaS? Well, we make the argument now that there is nowhere more important for a partnership and for a channel than in cloud and in the subscription economy, where recurring revenue is gold, where partners can make that huge impact on the customers, and where you may not have the resources to go in, the resources or cash or whatever it is to go in and actually provide all that support to all the customers that you're getting. So partners play a big role in that. So again, this goes back to kind of the bookings mentality. Partners, yeah, they can be great at helping you do this, at helping you accelerate sales, brand recognition, demand generation, sales efficiency. Yes, they help do that, especially if you're going out there and putting some of the 4 C's we'll talk about behind it. But what we really want to talk about today is how they improve customer value and outcomes. And I've kind of said this before, but how you help, or how your partners help you set expectations before you actually go out there and implement a technology. How they help you get your customers to adopt faster and grow that stickiness within your customers. How they're going to help you go out there and grow. So not necessarily renewals, but also growing wallet share within your customers. How are they going to help you upsell? How are they going to help you continue to get those renewals and grow your customer base? And when you think about it, we tell companies these days, and I first heard this a couple years ago from a NetApp's head of global resellers or global channels. He said the term channel isn't even relevant anymore. And I said, God bless. I mean, yes, I completely agree. When we look at a business these days is an ecosystem. And really, each of us individually have our own channels. A channel is not just going back and forth anymore. Everyone talks about, this web of influence you have around each other. We each have that. We are part of a company. That company is part of an ecosystem. And so the term channel really isn't that relevant in terms of how we're going just back and forth anymore. The business is an ecosystem, and you've got to grow and manage that ecosystem. So how do you do that? And how do you build what we call full customer lifecycle partner program? So it's not just a partner program that goes in there and generates revenue and then they're out the door and it's up to you to take care of those customers, but you are actually teaching and enabling and leading these partners on to help you accelerate not just sales, but recurring revenue. And how do you avoid some of those pitfalls? What we often talk about is recruitment. So really what it starts with is not having a channel that's 80-20 or even 90-10. And so a lot of times we see companies that have a channel partner program that has 100 partners, even 1,000 partners, 10,000 partners, and they may have 10% actually going out there, bringing in revenue and supporting customers. And they'll oftentimes say, well, our partners just aren't performing, or our partners go in there, they won't share their pipeline with us, and they won't really give us feedback on customer data and how a customer is performing. And what we often tell them back is, that doesn't sound like a partnership to me. Is that really a partnership if you're not being able to be transparent, if you're not sharing data, if it's not part of your culture? And so what you really have to look for when you're starting to build these partner ecosystems is, I'm sure we all know what buyer personas are. I think we've all probably talked about that. We talk about that in customer success. We talk about it in demand generation, inbound marketing. What most companies forget to do when they're building these partner ecosystems is actually putting together partner personas and putting together actual personas of what the types of partners are that are work well with your business. And those have to be companies and people that offer complementary services solutions where you can both benefit, so have a natural partnership, make each other stickier. So think about if you're going to get into the healthcare industry, if you have a product that you want to sell in a specific vertical, you're probably going to want to go find a company that actually goes out there and may be able to help you build those relationships, but then what do you get to offer them in return? Because if you think about it, this is kind of a volunteer sales team you're going out there trying to recruit. So what are you giving back to them? And that goes to the third point there, which is vertical, horizontal, or topical expertise. You've got to kind of look at those three instances and put together a persona that tells you where to go, tells you what type of partner to go find. And it's just like when you're going out in marketing. The more hyper-focused you can get and hyper-targeted, the better customer you're going to find, the quicker the sales cycle is going to be. And the same thing can go with your partners. The faster you're going to be able to find the right ones, the easier it's going to be for them to get onboarded with your company, and the better relationship you're going to have when you go and try and close deals, but also support those customers. So here's the other areas we talk about. We always call this the 4 C's of partner engagement, and how these 4 areas have to be in harmony. And so content, collaboration, customer success, culture, and I'll go into each of these a little bit more. But each of these we really look at as being critical. And this is kind of a different approach now than it was 10 years ago when, again, it was all just about that pre-sales method. Content is first, and this is the number one area that when analysts go out, Tim Harmon from Forrester went out and did a study about 18 months ago and talked to partners and said, what is the number one challenge that you have with the organization whose product you're reselling or supporting? And they said the biggest issue we have is, without doubt, knowledge transfer. How we get the information we need, when we need it, where we need it, on the device that we need it. And that's the information about the buyer's journey. That's content and tools and resources. That's training, not just training, but training tracks and certifications. Resources, again, sales tools, information about competitors, information about other partners. They used to say that it was just, the partners are so kind of linear. And in that channel method, now you see a lot of partner-to-partner collaboration, different partners working together. So information about partners, information about support, and information about your team. And so often that's been hidden, or it's been kept kind of siloed off in the past. And we need to make sure that that's transferring through from manufacturer back over to partner. The second piece of this is collaboration. And for a long, long time, channel has been about management and control, without doubt. So how do you manage those partners? How do you make sure that your brand is recognized clearly, that your logo is positioned at the right place, that they're running your demand generation campaign, that they're sending it to the list that you provided to them? Well, that kind of management and control is really gone out the window. And you think about it just like any company you would be running and any people you would be hiring, management and micromanagement and hard level of control, that really doesn't fly with the people within your own organization anymore. So imagine treating, again, this volunteer sales team the same way. These days, within your organization, so much more. It's about empowerment, enablement, making sure people can not just, people can actually go and learn to fish, right? Yeah. But actually going out there and enabling and empowering these partners with the content, the tools, the resource, and everything we just mentioned. Customer success. So we'll talk about this with a couple of, I wasn't going to include any slides here around product, but actually when I was showing this presentation to the Totango folks, they said, oh, that's cool, include that slide. So I feel like I have to apologize for having a couple product slides in here, but I'll show you guys. But again, we talked about these 3 areas: adoption, technology, knowledge, driving usage, driving value, driving customer outcomes, and doing through partner customer success. It used to be through partner marketing, now it's through partner customer success. I was talking to a gentleman this morning who was telling me how they have individuals that are actually assigned to their partners strictly focused on customer success. So one person who's assigned to every 7 to 10 partners to make sure that they are managing not the sale of the product, but actually managing with the partners the customer success of that shared customer. Because oftentimes, although you may be receiving the data of how your product is operating with a tool like Totango that's actually giving you information about that, the person who's front and center and face-to-face with that customer every single day and managing that relationship and holding your brand out in front of them is oftentimes the partner. So if you think about how important that is, you've got to make sure that you are enabling those guys to do that, to be successful. Technology, so making performance and adoption data visible and available to your partners, using tools like Totango and so forth. Also with the partner software that you use, and knowledge, playbooks. So we oftentimes talk about delivering playbooks and content to help partners drive renewals and upsells. They're not sitting right there in your organization where they can turn around to an SE, they can go talk to a marketing person, they can bring out a sales VP. They're sitting there on an island oftentimes by themselves somewhere else in your, outside of your organization, sometimes in another country, sometimes in another continent. I mean, they're not there with you, so you've got to make sure they've got the knowledge, and playbooks are probably one of the most effective ways to do that. So these are just the 2 slides that I'll show you and give you a great example of how some of our customers are doing it. And this is actually, we throw a fake logo on here, but this is a great example of how someone, and this is where we really focused hard on helping them drive the right actions and activities based on what is actually happening in that sales cycle. So you can see here as a deal goes from, and I don't think I have it. Do I have something? I do. The deal goes from needs analysis to live demo to proposal, negotiation, close won, close lost. That aligns up to your CRM, your Salesforce oftentimes. You want those partners to have the sales cycle be aligned to how it works for you. and integrated within your CRM. So if a partner goes and registers a deal, brings you a referral, brings you an affiliate opportunity, that actually goes through and goes into your CRM also. And then you actually give them a playbook that shows them how to move that deal along each phase of that sales opportunity. So each phase of the sales cycle. So it takes them step by step on how to close that deal so that they don't have to keep coming back and asking for information or asking for more. You also give them a chance to go and collaborate with other people that are within that opportunity. You can't really see it there, but the last thing that goes in here is a checklist of things that they have to be doing that they're reminded of either on a daily or a bi-weekly basis. So you're giving them information. So this is great for the booking piece of it, but what about the business and the customer success? Well, as soon as that customer that you're sharing becomes a customer, so the prospect that you're sharing becomes a customer, you go through the same thing. You go from welcome and kickoff to onboarding to a cadence of taking care of them, to a QBR, to a 90-day email, to a renewal. And you track that activity. There's the customer information now, and you give them playbooks and a customer coach of how to go from onboarding to a 10-step cadence to driving renewals. So you actually give them that information in real time where and when they need it. And it actually, those partners, again, not only are they selling your product, but probably they're selling 2 or 3 or 4 or 10 or 100 other products as well. We go back and think about a company like Insight or CDWs or other ones that could be selling your product. They could be selling a phone book of other products. So how do you actually get this information in front of them and keep it in front of them and keep them engaged? And it's got to be through providing them with tools and content and resources where and when they need it. Oops. Data. So again, it goes back to kind of the old way of doing it. Revenue and closes, pipeline and leads, margins and points. Still relevant somewhat in the early stages of when you're selling. But the more we move to this customer success model through partners, and you're able to utilize partners to do that, you look at things like channel velocity, so how your partners are actually moving the pipeline, how they're actually generating revenue, if they're able to keep revenue renewing, how much ARR or MRR they're managing. So how much revenue is that partner managing for you? Not necessarily how much just are they closing. And then adoption and churn. You need to be keeping track of adoption and churn, not just within your own organization, but how your partners are actually affecting that. So new analytics and new KPIs that you need to be tracking when it comes to building a partner program. So the last C we always talk about is culture. And again, I kind of mentioned this earlier. I think I screwed it up last time. If you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you go together. Culture is one of the most important things we talk about from a channel perspective and from a partner perspective. I always say it has got to be part of your organization from the CEO down. The CEO, the CRO, the CFO. A partner cannot be someone who's just kind of segmented off on an island. Neither can your entire partner organization. They can't have access to just kind of tertiary technology. They've got to be there and embedded within the company. They've got to be part of your culture. They've got to know what your mission, your vision, your organization is. They've got to know the marketing and demand generation campaigns you're running. They cannot be the last ones to get access to new content or product releases or product knowledge when that happens. They've got to be engaged in a piece of your company. It's got to be part of your entire organization, or else chances are, it's going to be like a lot of partner programs we see where they don't necessarily work out because they're sitting off on an island by their own. And we say this all the time, partners are people too. A lot of companies will say, well, yeah, we partner with Insight, or we partner with CDW. I like to tell a story about how, the first company I ever worked for was Cisco Systems. We never went into a deal alone. Every single engagement I went into, I brought a partner in. 10 years later when I got married, the partner I worked with the most was the best man at my wedding. You gotta treat these people like partners. You gotta treat these partners like people, that too. You gotta treat the partners like people. A lot of times you just say, well, Insight, how are they doing? Well, Cisco, how are they doing? Well, CDW, how are they doing? No, it's, how's John doing? Or how's Mary doing? Or how's, whoever it is, how are they doing in terms of, and how do we support these individual people rather than just working with the company? How do we treat them like people? So just a couple last things. Your partners cannot be left on an island to fight for survival. I mentioned that before. When they're left out there on an island, it's not going to work. Your program has to be simple. It has to be digital. It has to be integrated. We have seen slides with 100 little bullet points of how to execute a partner program. BS, you can start easily. There are a lot of ways for you to go and start and execute and run and build a successful partner program without overthinking it. And we see a lot of times people start to just go out and run versus the crawl, walk, run approach, and you overwhelm the partners themselves. Last but not least, crappy partner portal, 90s PRM, turn your program into The Walking Dead. We look at portals, and one of the reasons we kind of came into this industry is because we looked at it where portals are passive, PRM, relationship management of partners, thinks about them as organizations, not as people. You've got to stop being passive about how you treat these people and saying, you want this information, go to our portal. You want to know about that deal, go to our portal. A lot of times we hear companies say, well, the first piece of the first interaction between our company and our partners is always our portal. If that's the truth, chances are you're doing it wrong. You've got to have that one-to-one mentality, that transparency between your organization, the people that you're working with, and not just use the old school passive portals, but actually have software. Who here calls Salesforce their sales portal, or Marketo or HubSpot their marketing portal? That's crap. It's not. No one calls it that. So why do we call this our portal? Because it's passive. It's a dumping ground for a lot of companies. So how do we now start thinking about it as software and make that transition to being something that's active, that's giving information, that's uniting people through collaboration? So that's a big point that we always try to make. And so it goes back to my question. I can't believe I got this done in 17 minutes. So the question goes back to why. Why in the SaaS economy doesn't every company have a partner program? The impact is indisputable if executed correctly. That's a picture in the background you barely see of Aaron Levy and Box.com ringing the bell. And, one of the most successful partner programs that you guys can read about out there. Helen Keller said it. This is actually a line that actually, was part of our vows at my wedding that talked about alone we can do so little, together we can do so much. It is so true. So true. Not just personally, but through your businesses. So think about that. And that is all I got. I think the last thing I had, oh, no, that's it. I thought I had some resources on there, but that's all I got. So any questions or anything, I'd be glad to take them. Thank you. Any questions at all?
So it seems like you're assuming that the partner will do everything, including the renewal. Is that true?
I think the partner needs to be engaged in the entire process. And it depends on the type of partner. You've got to set those expectations early on. Well, someone a few weeks ago when I gave a similar talk asked, well, what do do we need a formal contract between us and the partner? And to me, that answer is absolutely. Because you've got to lay that out. Do you expect your partners to do that? If you're going to be utilizing them correctly, well, yeah. If you just want them to be a referral partner, you may just have some partners who are just referral, and you don't have them doing anything else. So you may have multiple types.
We're considering implementation partners for scale, but we haven't figured out yet exactly which parts of the customer journey and the renewal. Right now, executive management is wanting to keep the renewal themselves, and there's a pretty big concern about if we have somebody else doing the deployment. First of all, what's the value to them if we keep the renewal?
Right.
That's obvious, and then second of all, how do we manage the quality of that?
Yeah. It's got to be that transparency. You've got to have the transparency between yourselves and the partners in terms of, where they do get engaged. I mean, how that revenue comes in, and who actually, do they make a margin on that? But I think it's if you are treating this customer as a shared customer between you and the organization, that renewal is critical to both of you. The subscription is critical to you, but if they're a partner, they're not going to be a partner unless they're getting something out of that relationship also, right? So I go back and look at HubSpot as just this ideal model, and we've actually kind of copied them a little bit where, that revenue from the product is great for them. They don't want the services revenue. But that agency who they went and brought in, they're built to go do services. And unless, they have that kind of HubSpot platform behind them to be able to be the engine for the services they provide, it's a lose-lose if they don't get the renewal. And the agency oftentimes is the one who's face-to-face with that customer on a daily basis. HubSpot checks in once a month.
Okay, and with that, I think we have the next session in the main room. Thank you.
Thank you.